DDG episode 146. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Hey Dave, remember last week when we didn't have any video game news to talk about, so we took a week off?
Yeah, I think that was strategic. Like, I knew what we were doing.
Yeah, it seemed almost perfect, and now we have kind of a lot to talk about. Though PlayStation could have stepped up a little bit more than they did, but we'll get to that.
Apologies for last week. We don't like to miss weeks, but stuff happens. Real life stuff happens. And almost all of you know what my profession is, and I had a pretty rough week. So, from just a work standpoint, but overall, because a couple people have reached out, like I am fine. I am employed, and my building is not closing, but the company is in a little bit of a struggle. So, but that's kind of just where we're at. So I had to do some stuff as a store manager that I've never had to do in my life before. So, not a great week. But as I say all the time, you just have to keep moving forward with what you got. So that's what we're going to do. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that goes live every Thursday on podcast services around the world. You can also watch us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where we are a Twitch affiliate. So you can subscribe to us, whether you want to use money for that with whatever they call September. You get us, I think it's like 20% off if you've never subbed on Twitch before. So that's a great way for you to enter the Twitch ecosystem if you choose. Or you can link your Amazon Prime account if you have one with Twitch, and you get something called Prime Gaming. You get a bunch of cool stuff, little cosmetic things in other games, or like microtransactions, loot boxes, all that stuff. Sometimes even free games. But you also get to link, when you link your accounts, you get to subscribe to a Twitch streamer of your choice. If that is us, then that is great. If it's not, please let it just be another streamer that you hang out with or watch or interact with their community. Just don't let that free sub on Twitch go to waste. And other than that, everything else link-wise can be found in the show notes. As always, leaving a review for the show is super, super helpful, as well as sharing the show. Whether you share it on Facebook, on Twitter, Discord, tell your friend, tell the neighbor, I don't know, tell somebody that we have a show and that they want to listen to it. That helps. And maybe ask them to leave a review after they listen to an episode or two. But other than that, we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes of the video game world of... I almost feel like these last 4 days have been more eventful than June.
It definitely feels like that. There's at least a lot of game announcements, a lot of trailers. It was basically a mini E3 this weekend. And like, man, if you're running Tokyo Game Show, you're like, what the hell, guys? We're like 2 weeks away. Like, you could have saved some of this for us, but that didn't happen. And Jeff Keighley's got to be pissed because he just did Gamescom. What was that, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think this is still a little bit, and we'll get into all of it, but I think this is, again, kind of like post-pandemic, where this stuff wasn't ready in May and June, but it was ready in August. So you can talk about it in, like, September. Yeah.
Especially when we get to, like, the Nintendo stuff, where a lot of the Nintendo stuff we're going to talk about later is coming out either this year or within the first couple months of next year. It isn't until we talk about, like, the Marvel Disney stuff that's like, oh, you didn't really have anything to show, but you had a convention this weekend. But let's jump into some video game drama, as we love so much. So Xbox and PlayStation have kind of gone into, like, I don't know, I wouldn't say war, that's too harsh, but they're exchanging words on the internet right now. So Phil Spencer, a couple weeks ago, publicly revealed that Xbox had sent PlayStation an offer to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for an additional 3 years once the current deal is finished. It's currently rumored the current deal is for 3 more Call of Duty games, so we're talking about 3 years plus a 3-year extension. Jim Ryan.
So like 2028.
Yes, yeah. Ideally, depending if you're counting this year. It's unknown if it counts this year.
2027, 2028.
Yeah. And Jim Ryan did not fucking like this. Jim Ryan basically came out and was just like, he was disappointed he had to make a statement because he thought it was a private business dealing happening, or private business discussions happening. And so he was very disappointed that Phil Spencer wrote an open letter or publicly announced that, like, an offer was made to PlayStation. And Jim Ryan basically called the deal inadequate. It is not a good enough deal for PlayStation fans. And as we all currently know, Xbox Activision merger or whatever, the acquisition, is currently under scrutiny now in the UK. Like, it's all past all the other hurdles, but now it's in the UK. Now it's in Jim Ryan's territory. And there are concerns in the UK about, like, it being a monopoly and Jim Ryan's coming out and, you know, totally against a deal, which he should be because he's the head of PlayStation. But yeah, this is kind of weird that we don't really see, like, the business side details like this come up of, like, 3-year deal was offered. Jim Ryan, fuck that shit.
All right, so I'm of two camps of this. One, I think that Ryan being mad at Spencer for talking or saying or writing his letter, I think is a little misled. I think Spencer wrote the letter to possibly put other people at ease so that this deal goes through. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, we're not taking this away immediately. You know, like, we have plans, we have a deal with PlayStation, and it also doesn't mean that another deal can't be reached.
Yeah.
So he's not, like, I think Phil Spencer's doing whatever damage control he can do right now to make sure that this acquisition goes through. Mm-hmm. And I think that Ryan has a point with what he's saying, but he also sounds like a crybaby.
Yeah, like, from a business perspective, it makes sense why Ryan would see a 3-year deal and be like, no, we have been signing 10-year deals before this. We actually signed that deal with the previous CEO. So if we sign a 3-year deal with you, Phil Spencer, what assurances that can you give us that whoever succeeds you if you leave the company will also give us a deal? So it totally makes sense why a 3-year deal is not adequate for PlayStation's eyes. But I'm guessing things must have went bad enough that Phil Spencer felt like he needed to reveal publicly that a deal or an offer was made, and it must have gone at least somewhat sour. Like, I assume they are going to come to a deal eventually, because what is, like, 17% of Activision's money is PlayStation?
Yeah, I think they have. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a deal through 2028. I said this on social media, like, we don't even know what the state of Call of Duty will be in 2027 or 2028. So, yeah. Like, or what Microsoft's plans are for the Call of Duty franchise in 2027 or 2028. I'm sure that they have some, you know, like, contingency plan or ultimate thing that could obviously change over time. But whether it sells or doesn't sell, like, what they're looking at and is... This is so hard to judge, and I know a lot of people hate this when I say this, but because your game does, I don't even know what the number is, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 20 million, 15 million, 12 million, I don't know what it sells off the top of my head. But it doesn't mean that isn't necessarily a success, because they want you to continue playing the game, making purchases, participating in events, getting the data, getting the engagement. That's almost more important than the number of copies that it sells, because they already have projected numbers. But if they can keep the player base engaged and logging in and possibly spending money, that is significantly more important than the sales, because, like, I think the sales will come, which we've seen from Microsoft over the last couple of years with Game Pass. Like, they literally do not care about selling copies of games. They don't care about selling software. They care about selling subscriptions. And that's kind of at the point where they're at of, if the player has a choice, if they own an Xbox and a PlayStation, like, why would they buy Call of Duty on a PlayStation if they can get it through Game Pass and still play with their PlayStation friend that only has a PlayStation?
Mm-hmm. No. I mean, that is Microsoft's thing, which is why they're looking at deals that are only 3-year extensions, because they're playing a longer game than, you know, than any company would, because they're just like, hey, you know what? We might just completely move away from... Well, they're already moving away from yearly Call of Duties. Like, Activision already was like, hey, we might skip a year. So
right.
that shows that, like, the ideology is changing over there, which also adds to Jim Ryan's thing of being like, what does a 3-year deal mean if you're skipping years? Like, what is that? What good does that do PlayStation? The bottom line. So there's a lot of stuff that's up in the air, and Microsoft, of course, is like, they're just trying to sell subscriptions. And I believe they said, like, yeah, we will keep stuff on PlayStation, but the shit's coming to Game Pass day one. Like, PlayStation, right. You're paying $70. Xbox users, you just need a subscription. So they've already confirmed that is happening. I'm sure they'll offer still physical copies of Call of Duty for 70.
I mean, they're gonna sell. Yeah, they're gonna sell it.
Yeah, but it shows you how in flux everything is with both companies, and I totally understand like Jim Ryan's standpoint. I still don't think Jim Ryan is a good like frontman for this fight, because he just doesn't come across that great.
My problem is, and I'm gonna jump ahead really quick, but so we saw today during the State of Play that there's some exclusive quest in Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah,
and Sony paid for that, and they won't. Xbox isn't getting it.
Yeah, PlayStation's done that forever. Like,
right.
That is...
So why is it bad that Phil Spencer bought a company and wants to put the company that he bought on his platform when Sony can go to WB and say, "Here's." I don't even know what the number is. Here's $100 million. Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't even know anymore. But here's whatever you
here's
need.
X amount of dollars. Give us exclusive stuff. That actually looks kind of dope. Quest. Like that shit looked great.
And everybody's kind of like, oh, okay, that's par for the course. And the difference is that Phil Spencer says, hey, instead of me giving you X amount of dollars, why don't I just buy you? And then I can do with you with what I want.
And I think that's the thing that doesn't help is like, so one company's buying exclusive content for their extremely large base. So you're going to get a lot of people like, hell yeah, we're getting content. And then you're going to get people that basically are seeing someone just eat up companies and being like, this is going to be exclusive, and people already put their flag in the sand.
But what's Sony's goal with getting the Hogwarts exclusive content?
To sell more copies of Hogwarts on PlayStation.
Okay, so what's Microsoft's goal with purchasing Activision?
No, I totally get it. Like it's a console war. It's people trying to push units. It's just one side has a bigger base than the other, so things are going to sway a certain way in terms of like public perception.
People need to stop being so attached to a box.
Yes. People need to stop being attached to boxes, political parties, sports teams.
You've heard me say it. I love the fact now that I can watch anything. I can watch any trailer, any event, and have the ability to make the choice of where I want to play it and not be worried about it, not be stressed about it. I didn't care that there was Hogwarts Legacy exclusive content because I can just, if I choose to play it, I probably will buy it on PlayStation because there's more content for my dollars on PlayStation. If something, again, like circling back to recently, Nobody Saves the World. Oh, that came out. Okay, I'm going to play it on Xbox because I can play it on Game Pass or whatever. Like, and that's where that content comes from, and that's where my value is equated to. And I'm not telling anybody they can or can't have that value, but you can't get upset. Like, I don't want to like make it super easy, but if you have a Costco membership and they take your favorite potato chips and Sam's Club buys the company that makes the potato chips, you're not getting them from Costco anymore.
Yeah. Well, and an argument against what you're saying is I can't afford all the boxes, which is fine. My argument would be like, just enjoy what you can enjoy on your platforms, because there's awesome things on your platform. If you don't have that other platform, don't fucking pay attention to it. Me and you did that for a long ass time when we only had PlayStations. We weren't looking at Xbox to where when people would talk to us about Xbox, you'd be like, oh, okay. Like, who cares? Because we don't have an Xbox.
I still don't really know what the gist of Halo is because I never played it.
Yeah. And
but do I feel like I have this like chunk of me that's missing? No.
Yeah. QWERTY in the chat.
And like the great, that's what I say. Wyatt has a great point. Would the content even exist if Sony didn't pay for it? Probably not.
Yeah, just like with Tomb Raider.
Is there a possibility that Call of Duty could get better with Microsoft? I don't know. I don't think it's going to get worse.
Unless they give it to 343.
Yeah.
But like, like the Tomb Raider reboot, that wouldn't have existed, period, if Microsoft didn't pay for exclusivity for the first
Street Fighter V wouldn't have existed.
Yeah. It happens all the time.
If Sony didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just how business works. Though it is funny, though, seeing Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan kind of argue about this publicly, that we probably won't know a deal has been made unless there's like PlayStation Experience, and Phil Spencer comes to stage and is like, "Hey, we signed a new 10-year deal."
Yeah. Will Microsoft purchasing Activision be better for gaming in the long run? Nobody knows. Will Microsoft's purchase of Activision ideally make their company not a shit show of a company to work for? I think so.
Yeah. Activision hopefully should get better. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Because Phil Spencer and Microsoft like to act like they're union friendly, but they fucking ain't. Yeah. So
well, the bottom line is that Microsoft needs to release games. They need to stop talking, stop making deals, stop buying things, and release video games.
Yeah,
and that's where they're at right now. And to be fair, Sony is releasing games. They just need to release more of them.
Yeah, they need to bring back 2018, where they had like 4 exclusives coming out.
Yeah,
but the problem is, 2018 happened and they had 4 studios release 4 exclusives at the same time.
They were 4 years away from that.
Yeah, so that's the only problem with that. Which is why PlayStation has been buying studios and are slowly building them up, as opposed to Microsoft, who's like, let's just buy these full publishers and see what happens. To where, we'll eventually get some Microsoft games, but they're going to be from Bethesda and Activision, as opposed to Microsoft original studios. But let's move on to a showcase. Marvel and Disney had a game showcase. They did this during the D23 Expo. Couple announcements. It wasn't that big of a thing. It was like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of a showcase. But the first thing that was announced was Tron Identity. This is a visual novel game from Mike Bithell, so developer of Thomas Was Alone, Volume, John Wick, Hex. I think it's kind of weird to see a Tron game that's a visual novel game, because that's not how I think of Tron. But Bithell is a pretty good developer. That's a pretty good studio, so I'm curious to see what they do. Marvel's Midnight Suns got its date pushed forward. So it was previously delayed to 2023. Now it's coming out December 2nd. December releases always are fantastic for companies. And a prequel animation will be released, I believe, next month. Dave,
I'm still interested in the game. It still looks cool.
But it doesn't give you confidence.
No, it does not. This is published by 2K?
Yes.
Question mark? Yeah. I was going to say that I would love to see this game come to one of the services, but I don't think 2K is going to do that.
Maybe in February or March.
Yeah. But needless to say, December is just not a good time. It's just not a good time. You are after the Black Friday buzz, after the holiday buzz. People are tapped out with money. And typically the Game Awards are 6 days later, so that's when other things get announced and new things get talked about and games win awards and people are like, oh, that one game of the year, I should play that. Whether it'll be Elden Ring or Horizon. Oh wow, that many people really like that. I should really go pick this up. They're not going to be thinking about Midnight Suns on December 2nd or 12th or 15th.
Yeah, the only thing that might save them is how big that Marvel logo is on the box right. Come holiday season, and just what characters they put on the front of the box.
Or some movie releasing that says buy the copy of the game, get 2 free movie tickets. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of Thor: Love and Thunder just hit Disney Plus, so there's not even a movie that will hit Disney Plus that will be able to be like, hey guys, this cool game's coming out.
Hell, I was shocked enough as it was this week watching a bunch of college football and NFL football, and I saw a ton of Ragnarok ads, God of War Ragnarok, and I'm like, is that game coming? I was like, it's still coming in. Okay. I was like, is that next month? And I was like, oh no, it's not. And then they said November. I'm like, they're advertising 60 days in advance. Jeez.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I'm getting a little God of War fatigue because we're so far out. So Gargoyles Remastered was announced. This is basically a remaster of the gorgeous Sega Genesis game from 1995. They didn't really show anything of this, but it's just good to know that Disney remembers they own Gargoyles. Because I feel
they got a little bit of a revitalization with Plus when Plus came out.
People were
watching
it again.
Yeah.
And they started to release toys for it again.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if this was one of those hidden gems of a month into Disney Plus, like they're all sitting at a table, like, okay, like let's like, what is that spike over there? And they're like gargoyles. Like, damn, people really wanted that, huh? I guess that means we should look at these other projects.
Well, there was reports.
And this is probably one of them.
Yeah, there was reports that like, directors were pitching gargoyle movies to Disney a couple years ago, and Disney was like, "Fuck that." But
then I wonder if the Disney Plus data showed them like, okay, there's a thing here, like this is for real, like they're going, people are getting this, just like there's 7% of our users got Disney Plus and only watch gargoyles. Like, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm saying like, there's something on there that they're like, hey, some graph spiked. Like,
and that is just kind of like the cool thing of having like those streaming services have a back catalog, is they discover like, oh, people give a shit about gargoyles. Let's put out, what do we have? Oh, we have one game from the Sega Genesis. Oh, people actually liked it because the art style was cool. Fine. Can't remember how it played, but
make it shinier. They'll buy it.
Yeah, they'll buy it. Put out a dumb collector's edition. Though because it's only one singular game, I don't know what you price this at. Like, I'm assuming it's like a $20 thing.
30?
Maybe. But like a Genesis game, unless you do some sort of like,
well, if they give it, what if they give it the treatment, like the Aladdin treatment, the Lion King treatment, and the collection treatment of like rewind function?
I'm assuming,
I have no recollection of playing a Gargoyles game, so I can't speak to if this is a punishing 2D side scroller or whatever. I'm assuming that's what it is. Yeah. So like a rewind and soundtrack.
I assume it's going to be coming with that.
The scan line crap and the 4.3 ratio with the cool logos on the side, like.
Yeah, I'm assuming that is exactly what we're going to get. But even the Aladdin came with Lion King, and then eventually it came with Jungle Book. So those are 2-3 games in one package. This is just a singular game, as far as I know, unless there's like a Game Boy game packed in here or something that I'm not aware of. But cool to see that it matters to them enough to put effort into this game. Okay, now the biggest announcement from this event, which is probably going to be the thing that upsets Dave the most, is Skydance New Media had revealed what they're calling a AAA Marvel game from Amy Hennig, so writer, director from the Uncharted series. It is a World War II spy thriller starring Captain America, Black Panther, Azuri Black Panther, so not T'Challa. And then it will feature a soldier, Gabriel Jones, and a Wakandan spy, Nanali. So this is...
So they're saying Azura is T'Challa's father.
Grandfather, I believe.
Grandfather, yeah okay. And then the little bit of the headlines I'm seeing are essentially saying if you liked how Uncharted functions, you will like how this functions, which isn't a shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just wondering how many times this woman gets to step into the batter's box and not swing.
I think this will happen. This has to, especially like Disney's involved now. It's not EA. It's Disney, Marvel, and then Skydance is trying to like really make a name for themselves. What this game is going to be, I don't know. They did want to emphasize it's a AAA game, so I'm assuming it's going to be a third-person game. But I love the concept. Just the concept alone has me full on board with this game. Like a spy thriller featuring 2 of those characters sounds pretty damn cool. So it is Steve Rogers.
But when did we hear that Henning went to Skydance, roughly?
October.
6 months? Yeah. Not even.
Last year.
Yeah. Last year. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like 9 months now.
Almost a year.
Or more. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's the middle of September. Yeah.
Yeah. Leave me alone. So she gets there, and she probably has this like magic notebook, magic playbook or whatever as a writer of all these like ideas and things that she has, but then she has to get permission, obviously she has to get permission to do something Marvel. And best case scenario, like what are we talking about game? Okay, we're almost a year out from her joining the studio. Yeah. So best case scenario, what are we talking? 6 months of development, if that?
Yeah, so I imagine because of Disney just being like, you want to make a Marvel game? Pitch us, we'll approve it. This is basically them claiming these 2 characters. Because there's reports that EA was like workshopping a Black Panther game. I'm assuming that's why now we're hearing reports that EA shifted to like, we're making an Iron Man game. And they like went with an Iron Man game because they're like, well, we don't want to compete with another Black Panther game. And then
or Skydance got to the finish line first.
That's what I mean. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, they announced first. Shit. Okay.
Well, no, just like they got permission to announce.
Yeah.
So then that meant that EA's like that Marvel went to EA and says, nope, that thing's done. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Go over there. Go to Plan B.
Yeah, and then EA's like, well, I guess we have Anthem technology to make a cool Iron Man game.
But that also, like I said, in Amy Hennig's like Magic Notebook or whatever, she was able to present something complete, non-complete, 50%, 30%, 12%, I don't know, to Marvel. This is a story I want to tell.
Yes.
And that to them to go, okay, we're good. Like,
yeah,
we're fine.
And especially when we're talking about a World War II spy thriller, there's a chance in the Magic Notebook it had no connection to Marvel. And then when they're like, hey, I have this idea for a World War II spy thriller. And then they're like, what if we insert Black Panther and Captain America, who were around during World War II, into this idea? And then it just kind of rose from there. There is a Marvel comic that does kind of have these characters in it. I just haven't read it. So it just kind of works out really well for like, there could have just been a spy thriller idea that they're like, can we apply an IP to this? And they found like a perfect match.
Yeah, so I mean, this is probably the most exciting thing that I've heard from Marvel. Like, do I want to play an Uncharted style game as Captain America and Black Panther? Like, yes, absolutely. And do I want it to have the potential to have the narrative driven story that Amy Hennig is capable of from the Uncharted franchise? Do I want it before 2026? Yes, please.
Yeah, that would be nice. And again, we don't know the scale of this game, so it could be
an 8-hour game. Yeah, so
I will say there is like some confusion because immediately people are like, oh, there's 4 characters, it must be co-op. And then instead of outright saying like, no, it does not have co-op, they're like, it doesn't have co-op in a traditional sense because it is a theater experience like the Uncharted games where you will be going from character to character and the person on the couch can enjoy the game as well. And it's just like, just don't No Man's Sky this. Just say there is no multiplayer in this game. Don't try and pitch it any other way because that's just going to confuse people.
The sucky part is there's an audience that automatically hears no multiplayer and they're like, I'm out, I don't want to play it.
I know, and that's like, why they tried to like PR out of that. And it's just like, would you, Dave, want to play a 4-player game where you play as either Captain America, Black Panther, random soldier, or random Wakandan spy? No, because you're going to want to play Captain America or Black Panther. Potentially.
The world's gonna prove that they don't want to play a 4 superhero action game when they don't play Batman or
yeah, but at least like those are all like named characters as opposed to like if this was a co-op game, no one's gonna want to play. Am I super curious about what these other 2 characters are, and I want to and what are their ties into the Marvel MCU, and like what impact do these characters have on Steve Rogers as a character and on the way that Azure decides to take the direction of the Black Panther legacy? Yes. But do you want to play as the soldier for 12 hours? Probably not. When you have your friend playing Captain America or Black Panther, you're gonna be like, oh, he's got a shield, I have a bayonet. Like
and also games like this, like I get into a story rhythm, whether it's Horizon or God of War or whatever, and I get into a story rhythm where sometimes I don't want to stop, and if my buddy wants to stop, he's going to get offline and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. So I'm glad this is going to be a single player focused game.
Yeah.
Again, the concept got me super excited in terms of just like a spy thriller in World War II. Like, that sounds pretty damn cool. And then I never even considered like Steve Rogers has crossed paths with multiple Black Panthers potentially. Like, of course he has. He had a stretch during World War II. He was frozen for a little bit and then got thawed out. So he's seen at least 2 variants of Black Panther or 2 generations of Black Panther. And I think that's really fascinating. And it's something
the entire out of everything that's going on in the MCU, video game, movies, television shows, comics or whatever, the thing that I'm the most curious about and always gets my attention the most is the Wakandan world and people. Yeah,
especially like what were they doing during World War II?
When they're staying hidden.
Yes, exactly. And that is going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. So from a concept standpoint, this sounds fucking great. Will we see gameplay anytime soon? Probably not. And who knows what that gameplay is going to be. We could end up being tricked and this is going to be like a Telltale style game.
Stop it.
And I would still be into that, but I can totally see people being like Midnight Suns complaining about the gameplay style. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And that was pretty much the Marvel Disney showcase. There was some other stuff. There's like a Marvel Pokemon Go game. There's a cool 4-player Mickey Mouse game, but it's not art style of the current Mickey Mouse cartoons, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So yeah, that was a Marvel and Disney game showcase. I think people were getting really excited. I was talking to a couple of people that were upset that Wolverine and Spider-Man 2 weren't there, but I had to remind them
that's
PlayStation.
Sony's control.
Yeah, PlayStation, if they're going to show those games, are going to do it on their stage. And then the EA stuff just sounds like it's just so far or so early in development that they can't even do anything, especially if they potentially pivot.
To be fair, again, we didn't hear about any of Ubisoft massive Star Wars game. They didn't talk about it. They didn't title it. They didn't show it. That's Ubisoft's card to play.
Yeah.
So.
That, like, I'm sure we will get Spider-Man footage eventually. Because that game's coming out next year.
Today.
Nope, they did say this was going to be a Japanese-focused PlayStation Direct, I believe, or PlayStation State of Play.
When's the last time Kratos spoke Japanese?
That's always confusing. They did slip in a couple different things in there, but yeah. But yeah, that was the Marvel Disney Game Showcase. Don't worry, you guys will see Wolverine after Spider-Man 2 comes out. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
It would be weird if they were advertising both games at the same time, or at least for Insomniac. Ubisoft Forward recap. Dave, I'm assuming you watched most of the Ubisoft Forward. I just kind of like picked the stuff I cared about.
I kind of did bits and pieces. I was at work. So.
Yeah. So we got some trailers for Rabbids and Mario, Just Dance, Skull and Bones, Division Heartland. Dave, Division Heartland, I kind of was like, but I know you are a Division fan, so I don't know if
it's free to play. It's a survival based shooter. It's in its own little enclosed city that ties into the Division narrative.
A fake city, right? Like it's middle of America, Heartland America.
Yeah. So it's hard to tell like exactly like what they're, in Division 1 they had a survival mode where you kind of like started on the outskirts of the city and you came into the city, into New York, and you were scrounging and looting and you had to get near fires to stay warm like until you got better stuff. And the people really enjoyed that. I don't necessarily see that kind of vibe right now, but it does concern me that it's free to play, because then I'm like how heavy is it going to be cosmetic, how heavy is it going to be battle royale like things. But what's even more concerning is that they're just like, like everything from this event that they're talking about, whether it's the Division Resurgence mobile game, the Rainbow Six mobile game, Division Heartland, sign up for closed beta testing. So let us, go to this website for more details. No, show me when your game is coming out.
That's all you want.
Like, we've had rumors around Heartland for months, and like now your first peek at it is like, sign up for closed beta testing. God, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
Ubisoft needs to release some stuff.
You would hope that they would release some stuff. Like, that would be great. It would be fun if they released some stuff. But there's... Ubisoft Forward was kind of weird. There was a lot of announcements and trailers of stuff that's not going to be out anytime soon, except for Mario and Rabbids. I guess Skull and Bones is going to be a thing that comes out. I still don't believe it. Did you see anything with Skull and Bones that made you go, I'm getting that day one?
I need to watch the trailer again.
Okay.
No.
Because I felt like it was just like, here's more of the same. Basically stuff that you've been seeing for the last 7 years. No, buddy. Sorry, my cat decided he wants to hop on. So I don't know. I didn't really see anything like major that has shifted my perspective of Skull and Bones.
Right.
But let's get into what this actually was. This was the Assassin's Creed showcase. They even broke out Assassin's Creed into its separate showcase because it's the 15th year anniversary. So Assassin's Creed Mirage is an homage to to the original Assassin's Creed games. So this one's taking place in Baghdad as a young Basim, in what looks like a more confined world. The gameplay definitely looks like Assassin's Creed 1, the SEO trilogy as well. And they are saying that like this is going to be a smaller world than the previous 3 games have been, which have been like, I don't want to say bloated because a lot of content was worthwhile, but the last 3 Assassin's Creed games, Origins, Valhalla. See, I can't even... Odyssey. Those 3 games kind of almost felt like a chore at a certain point because the worlds were just way too big. They made Assassin's Creed a franchise you can play in 20 hours into games that require 100 hours. So this is going back to the earlier parts of Assassin's Creed, where this is going to be a smaller world. Because it's in Baghdad, that's a very similar setting than from what we got in the first game. So as someone who like fell out of love with the Assassin's Creed franchise, Mirage looks fantastic to me, even though it was just like kind of a CG trailer. But they did the right nostalgia grabs in that trailer.
I think like the little bit of Assassin's Creed that I've played recently, if they can, I mean, I hate to say it, but if they can get away from armor and loot equipping and upgrading and RPG elements and just kind of focus on the combat and the storytelling, you know, and like really cool ways to assassinate people, like I think that they could, you know, you can get that done in 8 to 12 hours.
Yeah, which would be fantastic, you know, like just I would imagine you didn't get into Origins and Odyssey even though you had a chance to, even Valhalla, because of how long of an experience those games are being advertised as. Am I wrong, Dave? Like, that kind of pulled you back a little bit, hearing that those games are like 100 hours?
Yeah. Or expansions or other worlds or other areas to go to. Like,
so this feels like the right move for Assassin's Creed. What kind of feels like the wrong move is the 6 Assassin's Creed games that were basically announced immediately after this trailer.
But I also think that before you move on, like, isn't Mirage priced to show that too? I feel like it's only like $50.
No, I believe was it Ubisoft the one that basically confirmed they're moving to $70 too?
But I thought that there was an Assassin's Creed game that I thought was announced. And the people are like, you know, like they were talking about the price point around the game. And I mean, I could be wrong. It could have been something else that I'm not even, maybe it's Red or Hex.
It could be.
Those are too far away. Like they wouldn't have given.
Well, there's something
pre-orders.
very special going on with those other games that we'll talk about. Let me see. I'm going to pull up the Ubisoft page for... Yeah, no, Mirage... Mirage is 50.
Okay. So that leads into more of that closed environment.
Yeah, potentially. But this is on the Ubisoft store, so I don't know if they're doing a special deal, but they're doing the deluxe edition 60.
Bad saying 50 for regular, deluxe is 60. Okay.
Which means they're just trying to get people to finally buy their deluxe and gold editions that usually end up going on clearance cheaper.
Or or they feel like there's only $50 worth of content in this compared to, you know, whatever Red and Hex and Infinity are going to be. Yeah.
So let's get to that. So Assassin's Creed Red is feudal Japan. This is coming in 2024, 2025. This has been a location that people have been wanting since the first game. So we're going to get a like Ronin style Assassin's Creed game. So that's 24 and 25. And then Assassin's Creed Hex got a teaser. And this looks like it might be a little bit more in like the horror side of things. I'm assuming it's going to be like Salem, dealing with some witchcraft stuff. And that didn't have a time frame, but that's further out. And both of these games are going to be the first 2 games in Assassin's Creed Infinity. So Assassin's Creed Infinity is basically their games as a service platform. So this was kind of confusing. I feel like I've heard multiple Ubisoft like releases kind of describing Infinity, and it sounds like Infinity is going to be the Animus stuff, so like the modern day timeline stuff because they are finally going to separate the modern day stuff from the historical elements, kind of. So in Red, in Hex, if you disc by Red, you disc by Hex, you're not going to have any modern day stuff. You're just the historical elements. But if you're in the Assassin's Creed Infinity, you will then have access to the modern day stuff, and Hex and Red are components of Infinity, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. I didn't really get it too much either.
And so we obviously don't have a clue how much Infinity costs either, because the first release it's tied to is in 2024.
Yeah, or Infinity is going to be free to play, and then they're selling you expansions, which are Red and Hex potentially. So that's
so you can mess around. You can mess around with the Anubis, but then when you walk up to it to go into the thing to back into your memories, you're met with a purchase screen.
Yeah. Just Desmond has to take his phone out and quick pay, or Desmond's dead, right? So Layla will have to quick pay to get access to the games. So that was kind of confusing on what Infinity is. I don't fully understand it. Also, is it infinite? And I've been saying Infinity. I don't remember. I don't care.
Your document says Infinity.
I know.
That's the rumor that I've heard. So.
Yeah. So that's happening. They also announced a Netflix show, a mobile game, and then a mobile game tied to the Netflix show. So there's...
So here's the state of Stadia.
Yeah.
Ubisoft has given up on Stadia.
Yes.
And has moved their stuff to Luna and Netflix. That's all you need to know. Like, when Ubisoft walks away, you got some problems.
Yeah. It's funny. The mobile game does look pretty cool. It is an open world mobile game, which I'm like, let's see how that goes. But it makes sense in terms of it's Assassin's Creed China. So it makes sense that if you're going to do that, you're going to make it a mobile game, because the mobile platform is huge in China. So you can easily bring that over to that area and potentially sell millions of copies in that region, or downloads with whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, tons of Assassin's Creed news out of there. I think people were really excited for Red and Hex, but then the Infinity thing kind of made it a little confusing of like, what am I getting? Am I paying for a $50, $60 game? Is that why Mirage is $50? Is because you want to set the standard of like, hey, if you're an Infinity or Infinite, and you want to actually play something, it's going to be $50 an expansion, and expect this size game from those expansions when you play Mirage. So I don't know if Mirage is just kind of like preparing people for the future.
A crash dummy.
Basically, yeah. Where it's like, hey, I hope you like these smaller Assassin's Creed experiences, because this is the future of the franchise, and we'll get you to, bite $50 a year.
I get it too, man. Like, at the same time, there's only so many 30, 40-hour games that I can or want to play in a 1-year window.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, Assassin's Creed for a long time got people to buy it once a year. But they kept getting bigger, and it just didn't work out that way anymore. Which is why Valhalla, like, they realized, like, holy shit.
It was a great November, December game. You bought it, you played it, you beat it, you stopped. Oh, there's another one. I bought it, play it, beat it, stop. Like, that's okay. Odyssey and stuff like that turned it into, like, I bought it, I played it, I beat it. Oh, there's another thing now. Oh, there's another pyramid. I'm sure I'm trivializing it. I'm sorry.
And you're mixing up the regions, but it's fine.
Yeah. But then it's like, the new season. I'm like, huh?
Well, and I think though, for that, when it comes to like Valhalla going into year 3 of content, they realize like, oh, the people that bought it are willing to continue to play this. We're not going to get new people into this because it's too big, but like they're trying to find like a happy medium, which I think is going to be separate games that are smaller.
Take the Destiny model though into Infinity or Infinite, and then just say every 6 months here's a named content.
I think that's what they're doing. I think that's what they're aiming for. But in order to do that, they need to prepare the audience that these are going to be smaller experiences, and that looks like that's what Mirage is setting them up. So if Mirage is amazing and it's only a 20-hour game with a reasonable size open world, then the fan base might be like, you know what, we're okay without the 100-hour game. and then that will bring people in like you, Dave, who kind of like are like, I'm intimidated by 100-hour experience because I don't have fucking time for 100-hour experience. So it might get you in, and then also for me, who fell out of Assassin's Creed, it could pull me back in.
Because it's a 40-hour, 50-hour game. You're like, I don't want that. I want a game that I can play and beat in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then if they can pump these out regularly, they can end up back into their annual release thing, but it won't hurt their bottom line, and they would have to crunch their developers down to hell. Because it's like, oh, we're not building these gigantic, expansive worlds. We're just...
Yeah, get them on an 8-month development cycle or whatever and get 3 studios doing it.
Yeah, which
and then you really get like 36 months or something like that to do it.
Yeah, and that's basically each Assassin's Creed game...
Stupid math, so...
Each Assassin's Creed game they announced, they named the studio that's working on them, and each game is being worked on by a different studio, so this is something that could really work out. For Ubisoft in a long run in terms of like development health, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of tightening things up.
And then also trying to one-up itself every single time.
One-up itself, but then also being like, fuck, they added this mechanic to that game? Well, we gotta add that mechanic now too. Because I'm sure that was a problem. Anytime like Odyssey did something and then Valhalla team's like, fuck, you guys were doing that? Like... Because that would happen in Call of Duty, where like they would add something, and then people would be like, "Why don't you have that?"
You got double jump and wall run? Oh, we just have mantle.
Yeah, no, and that became a problem for Call of Duty because people were like, "Oh, I like the way the last year's played."
Well, you ended up, like, I'm just a Treyarch COD guy.
Yeah.
Know? Or I'm an Infinity Ward COD guy.
I remember the boots to the ground was like a big push point for like Treyarch. So there's different things that this could benefit Ubisoft. All right. Any other thoughts about Ubisoft Forward?
I'm getting more and more concerned about Avatar and Prince of Persia. And
Avatar was there. I think they said they're doing something separate for Avatar or something, or they'll talk about it later. I just don't give a shit about Avatar, so I didn't include it. And it was really brief. It was just like, here's Pandora.
I know they just announced that it was a delay, but it's coming out in the next 6 months. Like, we need to start seeing a little bit more.
Yeah. And I didn't include it, but Ubisoft, Tencent got a big stake in the company that owns Ubisoft.
In the family.
Yeah, the family who run Ubisoft.
I was like, what the?
Is a very confusing offer.
Instead of buying Ubisoft, we're going to buy the guy that runs Ubisoft.
We're going to buy the brothers.
Yeah.
We're going to buy 50% or 49% of the brothers. So I didn't even include that because we just had too much video game stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Nintendo Direct happened today. So I'm just going to burn through this list, Dave. You can stop me if there's anything you care about. There's one thing I did forget. Hold on.
All right, so Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, coming to the West in early 2023.
To PlayStation as well, which they didn't announce,
obviously.
obviously.
Octopath Traveler 2, confirmed coming in February. That's a quick turnaround. I know you like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, this Square Enix, this is why Square Enix sold their Western studios, is because they realized, like, hey, we can pump out these, like, RPGs, because Square Enix had, like, 3 RPGs that kind of look similar announced during the showcase. But Octopath Traveler, we knew it was in development, but they never confirmed it. So the fact that they confirmed it and are like, hey, it's out in February, this shows that like Square Enix is like, hey, these smaller games make us money and we can pump them out regularly.
I believe Octopath Traveler is on Game Pass currently. It's actually been one of the games that a lot of people recommended that I play, partially because a lot of them have told me that I can play it on my phone and I don't really have to worry about any kind of precision control or lag as much.
Yeah, you could do that, and also you could just play it on a Switch on the go. And I believe this is coming to... It might be coming to PC day one, and also might be coming to PlayStation day one, since Octopath went multi-platform eventually. We'll talk about this right now. More N64 games coming to Switch Online. So we got Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, Mario Party 1 through 3, Pilot Wing 64, and then the big one, the one that's been like a constant rumor for how long, Dave? Like a year? 2 years?
It's a long time.
GoldenEye 007 is coming to Nintendo Switch with online play. Xbox will get an offline version of GoldenEye that runs at 60 frames in 4K.
On Game Pass.
On Game Pass.
With local multiplayer, but no online multiplayer.
Correct. Yeah, so it'll still have its 4-player split screen on Xbox. And for anyone that is wondering, why is it like this? It's because Nintendo had the rights to the game, but Rare developed it. A cool thing Xbox is doing, if you own the Rare collection that they released a couple years ago, you will get GoldenEye for free.
Yeah. Rare Replay.
Yeah, Rare Replay will have an update to it that will bring GoldenEye to it, so you don't just need Game Pass. Or you won't need Game Pass to play it.
Rare Replay is on Game Pass, but if you own Rare Replay, you will be able to play Call of Duty without Game Pass. Or, I'm sorry, GoldenEye without Game Pass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the whole like campaign, which I forgot this game had a campaign.
Yeah, which actually isn't too bad of a campaign for the time.
I would be super curious. Like, obviously, like Michael and I can attest to this. Like, I've have memories in high school of playing this game with my friends.
Yeah, kindergarten was really good.
Yeah, dick. I'm a little bit more intrigued of like what this would look like on a 70-inch TV on 4-player split screen versus a 24-inch TV or whatever we were playing at one point.
Significantly better, Dave. Significantly better.
So yeah, but again, no date, just soon. You know, and then also the thing that I hate the most is like the announcements are made, and then it's almost like you have to pay more attention after the announcements are made to get all the fine print. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, I would assume it's really, really soon because the achievements, people have the achievements for GoldenEye on Xbox already. Like, people data mined it, so the developers have been testing it enough to get it in the system. So it is really close. It's kind of cool to see some sort of partnership like this because I imagine not only is it a challenge to get Xbox and Nintendo to work on this, but they also need to get the James Bond license holders to also agree to this, and they were able to work it out.
This is definitely that, like I would love to hear this negotiation. Like, well, I'm the one that makes the ingredients. Like, I'm the one that buys the ingredients, sucker. Like,
yeah, and it's basically what it is. And then I guess a compromise is you can have it, but we have online. And they're like, fuck it, fine. Have fun with the online on Nintendo. Like, Xbox probably laughed at them. Like, okay, have fun with that.
Do you think that we'll ever see online on Xbox? Like in a year, Nintendo be like, fine, whatever.
I think we will. I can't imagine it going that long without online. Like a year makes the most sense.
Nintendo is going to be like, all right, we sold our 4 million copies. You can have it.
Yeah, we sold enough subscriptions because it's being tied to the subscription. So they're like, okay, it either made enough of a dent or it made not enough of a dent.
Yeah.
That we don't care. You can have multiplayer.
Damn, they really think our online play sucks. Fine, you can have it.
Yeah. I was really hoping the Xbox would have online, but I don't mind playing on the Switch if I have to. But I will try and do split screen because that's what I remember.
Michael's going to totally have GoldenEye and beers at his house.
Yeah, I might even order now the N64 controllers that they sell on the Nintendo website. Just for the full experience so I can fuck up my thumb. Nintendo Switch Sports is getting a free golf update. Autocorrect.
Yeah, that's cool. I need to pick this game up. Actually, this is something I should can be playing with Angela and Owen, and I keep forgetting it exists.
Just do the smart thing. Don't buy a physical copy. Just buy a digital copy.
Why would I buy a physical copy? My 7-year-old loses cartridges.
Okay, yeah.
The other day he came out of the bedroom like, out of his room. Hey, I found Odyssey. It was on my bookcase inside of a book, and I'm like. Okay.
It's one of those things where it's like I almost made the mistake of buying a physical copy. It's just like, no, you want this to just be available on the system at any time. Pikmin 4 was announced.
Pikmin.
Yeah. That was announced. It was really weird. They talked about the mobile game, which has been out for a long time.
The lead up to this was terrifying people, and then they said Pikmin 4. They're like, oh.
Yeah, it was just so weird because it was like, the mobile game, it's been out. Like, why are you talking about this? Why are you spending so much time talking about this? And then they're like, hey, the 4th one's coming out, and it's going to be out next year. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion coming out in December. This is one of those December releases that I don't actually really worry about too much because it's Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. It'll do fine. Kirby's Return to Dreamland was also announced. Why does this cat want to be on camera? There you go. Is what you want? Okay, buddy. And then I think the thing that probably woke Dave up, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom coming May 12th.
All this did was remind me that I still haven't beat Breath of the Wild yet.
Yeah, but you love yourself some Zelda.
Yep. No, I'm gonna Breath of the Wild's gonna move up the list, and I need to go back to playing. I need to play the Switch more, anyways. And the cool thing, I think I said it out loud to my wife today about Zelda, is that like at its core foundation, the story is what the story is. So I can totally pick up right where I left off, and I'll feel relatively caught up within an hour or two of playing.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about this. It looks awesome. Like,
does it look too awesome for the Switch?
I don't know. Like, it's so hard to tell with Nintendo. We've seen Nintendo for years squeeze every inch out of their systems.
But even Breath of the Wild had some moments where you're like, this is really struggling on this system.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, like I think, did you hear the speculation of, so Queen Elizabeth passed away?
Yeah.
And they announced the Nintendo Direct. There was rumors last week that the Nintendo Direct was going to happen, but now it wasn't because Nintendo didn't want to be disrespectful to the Queen.
Now we know why, because the name of the Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes, like that's what I was going to ask you. So Nintendo UK did not broadcast the Nintendo Direct because of period of mourning time or something. Yeah. I'm probably getting that wrong. I'm sorry.
It's a cute gesture. Not like people couldn't just go to YouTube and type in the US version.
In the US or the Japanese, yeah. And then but then the title, Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I think that was more or less like, obviously Nintendo UK knew what the game was called, and they were like, hey, we can't
put this on our Twitter feed right now.
Yeah.
I totally imagine that was.
Yes, but it looks super cool. I have my concerns about it. But at the same time, I don't think Nintendo can announce a game and then announce a new hardware system in the next 6 months.
They're not. I think they're totally just. This is it. I think this is the last big Switch game, though. I don't think we're going to see Mario Odyssey 2 or anything. This is I agree. Yeah. Any big game announced after this is for the next Switch, the next Nintendo platform.
Yeah, because that would mean this holiday or the holiday 2023.
Yeah, which is why I think that you push this out in May. You know, you're just like, okay, let's just clear out of the holiday.
And then whoever you don't sell it to in May, you say, and it runs even better on Switch Plus.
Yep, just slap Deluxe Edition on it like they've done for every other of their games. And then I think you're good.
In typical Zelda fashion though, does this date stick?
I think so. I think this actually sticks because again, I think if maybe they can push it a month or two, but I don't think it goes past the summer. Okay. Because I do think they will have some sort of announcement for new hardware next winter. Especially if PlayStation's confident enough that they can have units ready for PSVR. I think Nintendo will probably be like, okay, we'll have chips for the next thing. I just really hope it's a Switch too. I don't think I want any radical thing. I don't want anything radically different from Nintendo.
Yeah, you just kind of want a bigger screen and better Joy-Cons, right?
Yep.
Bigger screen, better Joy-Cons, and obviously more powerful.
Yes, more power. And I think I'm fine. I'm fine with using the same Joy-Cons if they're like, especially if they're like slap your old Joy-Cons on this thing.
Yeah.
That'd be great. But Nintendo's not going to do that. They'll add an extra button that is required. They'll add the Z trigger back into their controllers that you'll need.
You'll get the thumbstick in the middle of the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly what you end up getting. All right. So that was Nintendo Direct. There was also trailers for Bayonetta, which still looks fantastic, but Bayonetta still gives me the concerns that I have with Tears of the Kingdom of like, can this system run this game? New tracks coming to Mario Kart because they're still doing that. I think was it 48 maps.
That game is selling bonkers.
Man.
Talking about a game that prints money, dude. Like,
it really does. I mean, we didn't talk about it too much, but Kirby's Return to Dreamland looks fantastic. Also, holy shit. Like, in terms of, like, celebrating Kirby's anniversary, Nintendo's hitting it out of the park compared to, like, you know...
Mario and Zelda.
To everything else.
Mario got good. Yeah, Mario was very good. Zelda was kind of meh.
Well, because they apparently have 2 Zelda remakes sitting on their shelves in their vault. Same thing with Metroid, where The Metroid.
Well, that's the rumor that Wind Waker is supposed to be coming to the Switch, and people thought we'd hear about that today.
Apparently, according to people, it's done. Like it's just sitting there. Same thing with the Prime trilogy. Apparently, has been done for like a year or two, but they just don't know when to release it. I'm assuming that is like those games, or if the Switch 2 can't make next year's holiday, is when you're just like, okay. We can't release the new Mario game. We can't release,
or they do a Nintendo Direct on like November 12th or November 15th this year and say, "And Wind Waker's available today."
They could do that as well, but I really think they're holding those in their pocket in terms.
What's the other Zelda? Twilight Princess. I'm sorry. Yeah, Twilight Princess. Yeah, it's Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. My apologies.
Yeah, it's. I think they're holding those in their back pocket in case they have to delay another year for new hardware.
I would totally play Wind Waker for a third time on a third system.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean,
it's my favorite Zelda.
You would probably buy the special controller like you were thinking with the last Zelda remake.
Yeah, I really like Skyward Sword's story, like in terms of the origin story, but the Wind Waker start to finish, like best Zelda. Like,
I would assume you would go all out for that one. You'd probably buy an amiibo for that one if it came to it.
I have an amiibo for the other one.
That's what I'm saying. You'll probably.
I want more of the little like the young Link plushies.
Okay. Those hand gestures scared me. Yeah. No, Dave. No. All right. That was a Nintendo Direct. PlayStation State of Play. It's funny. Me and Dave were texting earlier, and I was like, "Hey, Nintendo really did a good show. If PlayStation has one good announcement, this could be a pretty fucking cool day." So let's talk about the lack of big announcement. Though there was cool stuff. I think I'm more excited about this than I probably should be, because I'm probably going to play like 2-3 games from this. But we got confirmation that the next Tekken game is Tekken 8. We were given a teaser at EVO, but people didn't know, like, is this 8? Is this a remake? We are getting Tekken 8. Trailer was given as well. We got Like a Dragon Ishin. I'm mispronouncing it. I am so sorry.
Is this a Yakuza game?
Yes. So this is from the...
Okay.
This is a remaster of a Japanese exclusive game.
Okay.
That was released in 2011. It is from the studio that made Yakuza, and that's why some of the characters look like straight up Yakuza characters. Yeah. So this is a game that never came west during the PS3 era. There's actually a couple, I believe, of this specific iteration of the franchise, I guess you can call it. It's hard to tell. You can't really call it a franchise, but it definitely is in the same vein.
The Yakuza universe.
Yeah. This was a game I remember playing. Like, I downloaded the demo for this one off the PS3 store back in the day. So really fun game. When I saw this, and then the next game, Team Ninja's Rise of Ronin announced, I was like, the Japanese developers saw how successful Ghost of Tsushima was, and are like, let's bring some of our games out. So Team Ninja will have a new game that looks really good, Rise of the Ronin, and then the Like a Dragon game is a remaster that Sega just has a ton of remasters in their back pocket, ready to go at any time. So it is cool to see like more samurai games coming out. More,
I think this is a true like return or ROI thing, return on investment for them. Like Sega's like, hey, we did it with this one. Look how much money it made. Hey, we did it with that one. Look how much money it made. Like, do it again. Do it again.
They remade like all 7 or 6 Yakuza games.
And they're solid.
Yes.
Like, they're solid games. Like, the fan base is very happy with them.
Yeah. And then Bringing These finally are good. I'm hoping, even though I just bought it on PS3 for an absurd amount of money, I want Dead Souls to get remade, which is the weird zombie Yakuza game. Like, bring that, because that was fucking weird. Don't devalue my PS3 copy, though. So I like that Sega is just, kind of pumping this stuff out. I believe the studio did announce that they're going to do a special event with that studio to talk about the future. Of course, the studio lost like a ton of talent to NetEase earlier this year, so they definitely need to they need to have
because
a
the
public...
guy left, right? Like the main Yakuza guy left for Inetti Studio to do his own thing.
Yes, and then brought a shit ton of the talent with him.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe not a ton, but a lot of the top names that follow him. Yeah. And then we got a cool game. I don't know. This kind of caught my eye. It's a driving survival adventure game, Pacific Drive. I don't know, Dave. Like, I don't know if this...
It looked a little clunky to me.
It looked clunky
at first,
but it's a cool concept.
Like I was like, "Is this a VR game?"
It did look like a VR game at first.
Yeah, and I did, but I don't really know what's going on entirely. Of like, yes, I can see like there was a lot of time in the car and dodging things and moving things, and so. But didn't this one say like 2024?
It did, because you got to have one of those. That's the thing is like Nintendo is really good at like, hey, our directs are only going to show stuff that's going to release this year and like first half of next year. State of Play does not have that rule. State of Play is like you could have a Quantic Dream game that's not going to come out for 6 years on a State of Play. Which I would love if they set like some sort of rule.
Yeah, and then circling back really quick, remind me like what other games Team Ninja's done recently?
Team Ninja.
Because I think a lot of people were pretty happy about it. I thought Rise of Ronin looked really cool.
Yeah. I'm blanking.
Very, very gory though. Very gory.
Of course they did the Dead or Alive games, Ninja Gaiden.
Okay. That's where. Okay, Ninja Gaiden. That's where I know him from.
Neo. That's the
okay.
Neo 1 and 2 were really popular.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So right. There we go. So that looked good. I don't know. Pacific Drive looked interesting from a standpoint of, yes, it did look clunky, but it's a type of game that I've never seen before. Of just like, you're I'm assuming you're getting story through like the radio or some sort of like walkie-talkie system or AV system. And some crazy shit's happening outside of your car and just trying to survive that I thought was interesting. But to your point, it did look kind of clunky, almost looked like a VR game, which would have made the clunkiness more acceptable.
Like I immediately, it was like when the character got into the car, I'm like, whoa, that didn't look right.
No, yeah, it didn't look right at all. It did look like VR. Unless I missed something, it was VR, but I don't think...
I don't remember seeing it.
Because they showed VR games at the beginning.
The Star Wars VR game and something else.
Yeah, something else.
Which I'm tired of at this point in time. Like, stop telling me stuff that's in development for your platform that doesn't have a date.
Yeah, at a certain point, unless it's something mind-blowing, and I don't think we've seen anything like mind-blowing for
No,
PSVR.
the Star Wars game looked really cool, but it didn't. I didn't see anything in there that made it look better than VR 1. And I'm sure that like the head detection and motion movement is going to be what's better, but like VR games with a headset on are going to be not going to look like PS5 games. I don't care what system it runs on.
Yeah,
like,
and I think most people at this point realize
you put a peripheral on your head, you're going graphical fidelity's going down.
Yeah, no matter how crisp the new headset screens are, it's still going to textures are not going to look as good as they can outside of VR. Project Eve got a new trailer and a name. It's now called Stellar Blade. This looks like it's basically like PlayStation's answer to like a Bayonetta. We had seen this previously.
I got a lot of bright memory, like flashbacks with this.
Put a higher quality than bright memory, but I totally see what you mean there, especially as something we just played like a month ago.
Yeah.
But Stellar Blade looks fantastic. I'm interested in this, especially because I want Bayonetta 3, but I don't want to play Bayonetta 3 on the Switch, so I'll take this if I have to. Trying to see, they announced what almost sounded like NFT for PlayStation Stars, but they didn't say it was NFT, so I guess it's acceptable.
What are you supposed to do with that stuff?
Brag about it like I guess the people that brag about trophies do. I don't know. Like, Dave, this is not meant to appeal to either one of us. Can you imagine if one of your friends...
I want to know what other perks of whatever it's called, PlayStation Stars is other than digital.
Well, they said stacking. So they said discounts and PSN credits are things that could be unlocked with trophies. So there's at least that coming.
It's probably similar to like the Game Pass quests.
Yes, I think it's exactly.
Where you earn points.
Yeah, exactly the Game Pass thing, but also now with potentially NFTs. I'm assuming it's not. They're probably NFTs, right, Dave? They're just not going to call them NFTs.
Can you take them out of your PlayStation?
Probably not, but like I know
they're not really NFTs, right?
So some NFTs have to live in their like fucking thing.
Where am I putting this NFT?
I don't know, Dave. Where are you putting a trophy? Like nowhere. But you know there are people that give a shit about like the trophies they have.
But somebody can click on that game and see when I earned it.
I'm assuming
and how
if
and
you
how
click
I
in your
earned it,
profile, you can see these digital goods. Like you'll be like, Dave has the dildo from Saints Row 3, and you'll be like, oh shit, Dave's got the dildo from Saints Row 3, and it'll be like, oh shit.
Of course, you immediately went that direction.
Yeah. I was looking on eBay for the ones they gave media
for the dildo for Satan.
Yeah, because they made them and put them on media.
Your search history algorithm is broken now, sir.
Oh, it's so goddamn broken. It's so broken. I gotta start incognito searching eBay because eBay does not know what I'm looking for right now. All right, and then there was a game, Synduality, the futuristic-looking game. That looked pretty good, but they ended with God of War Ragnarok, which did not fit the vibe of this thing.
Other than the fact that I want that controller, just because I love that blue.
Yeah, I do like that controller. It was pretty nice.
That blue looked cool. I could do without the little logo on the touchpad, but I get it. It's a God of War controller. Mm-hmm. Like that looked cool. I thought it was gonna be a console at first. I
did too, because I thought I saw some fins.
But then I was like, oh wait a minute, can they really do that? I was like, you already have a hard enough time getting a regular console.
I can see them. They were gonna sell faceplates.
They're gonna do. Yeah. The faceplates.
Yeah.
But yeah, the controller looks really cool, and I thought the trailer looked really cool.
Same. It looks fantastic, but I'm done seeing God of War trailers. Like I want to play the game.
What is this? The second or third one?
So I don't know if we talked about this before the show or during the show, but there's a lot of God of War commercials happening, and so I'm kind of tired of seeing God of War commercials. But the game looks fantastic. Like, really excited.
That Leviathan hitting Thor's hammer looked dope.
Yeah, and I'm growing.
All the shield bashing he was doing looked amazing.
Yeah, and I really like their Thor design too.
Is that the same voice actor for Kratos? It didn't sound like
it. No, it is.
And I don't know if I'm just overthinking it.
No, I think you're overthinking it. It is still
okay.
Chris Judge? I forget his name. But that's still
I would assume I can think that Atreus is going to be different because he's predominantly older.
Yeah, it might still be the same kid, but he's aged since then too in real life, so his voice is going to change. But yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm ready for it to come out. They better not do a state of play directed to God of War.
Exactly. That's what I'm worried about, is we're going to get a God of War state of play. It's like, don't. Like, I don't expect there to be any major gameplay changes. Like, they'll add some new moves and everything like that, but like...
Well, I mean, we saw them, like, a little bit more defensive with the shield, and using it more as almost as like a grapple tool or a mantle tool or something like that to set you up in position. And now I really want to play as Atreus.
Do you think there will be a Last of Us 1 section where, like, oh shit, Kratos is hurt, now Ellie's, now Atreus has to go do a mission?
If this is the end, like we thought it was going to be a trilogy, I would say that we would have played more as Atreus at the end of the third game, but now that it was supposedly the story's wrapping up in 2, we are 100% playing as Atreus for 4 hours.
Yeah, but like towards the end of it, right? Like, and then maybe you get one last go at Kratos.
The only thing that's a little concerning me from the trailer, and I don't want to like overanalyze it, I only watched it once, but I swear I saw more Underworld stuff again, and I get it, but getting kind of tired of it.
Yeah, you kind of always have to go to the Underworld no matter where Kratos is. I do hope we run into like more of Kratos' past in this game. For whatever reason, even though I'm like not the biggest fans of like the original God of War trilogy, I do think it would be interesting to see like the different gods kind of crossing each other, and seeing what would happen there. Just Thor talking to Hades, being like, "Can you believe this motherfucker?" And then Hades is like, "Yeah, he killed me too." Just something like that would be interesting. But yeah, overall review of this state of play. Do you think it could have been an email?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Like, I think that PlayStation Stars, whatever it's called, could have been a blog post. yeah, like the number one thing that I took away from this, and like this is just might be me, and I know it's a Japanese focused one, and I get it. That's not my wheelhouse, but I spent more time looking at the screen, going, "What's that game called? What are those words?"
So
like,
I think this was a problem with the Nintendo Direct and a PlayStation Direct. Is in the Nintendo one, they had a lot of Square Enix RPGs and farming life simulator games that it was hard to differentiate a good chunk of the Nintendo Direct in terms of like there was like 10 games that kind of all were the same genre, and then when you got to the PlayStation State of Play, you had 2 like warrior samurai games, and then you also then had a lot of like kind of actiony futuristic game in terms of like Project Eve and Synduality, to where some of that stuff kind of just really blended in, which like I get it. Sometimes that happens, but there's a way to do this to where you can separate some of these similar games.
So historically, the last 2 Septembers, Sony has had larger events than this. Do you think that there is another larger event coming in the month of September for Sony, to maybe that they show off a couple more things like Spider-Man or Wolverine, or there's another game that's escaping my mind right now. And they're just getting some of this stuff out. Final Fantasy 16, sorry. But they're just getting some of this stuff out of the way.
No, I think we're going to get a God of War State of Play. That'll probably be the biggest thing this year. Maybe they save something for the Game Awards. But
I'm just saying, if we're talking about Q1 2023 for VR2 rumored, like, don't they need to kind of date it and price it?
Yeah,
now?
I think we'll get. So what I'm predicting is within the next 3 weeks we'll get a God of War State of Play, and then maybe end of October we get a PSVR State of Play.
So we're not getting any other higher end PlayStation showcase style thing between now and Halloween.
What do they have?
They haven't shown a Spider-Man gameplay yet. They haven't delved into a little bit more into Wolverine at all. If history holds, there is some type of DLC type thing for Horizon. If history holds,
yes.
And then VR, giving taking that showcase, showing Spider-Man gameplay, showing VR2 and the game and spending a significant amount of time on VR2, giving it a date, giving it a price, and showing 10 games.
I think we're going to get a God of War State of Play. We'll get a VR2 State of Play, and that's it. Spider-Man 2 maybe shows up at Game Awards, but I think if you're going to do anything for Spider-Man and Wolverine, and even Horizon, you do something in January or February. Like
So they're going to be completely quiet on Last of Us Factions then.
Yes.
The rest of this year.
Game Awards. Since they worked with Keighley to originally announce it, I think they give Keighley Factions. Because Factions is an announcement, I don't think that deserves its own State of Play or showcase.
No, but I think it deserves a showcase though, where like you Spider-Man Factions VR.
I think you give that to Keighley.
Price.
I don't
Okay.
I don't really have faith. I don't let anyone.
Like, where the hell is this Sometimes Always Monsters game? Come on. Like, where are these guys' games?
I think that's June. We'll see that stuff for like an E3 showcase. Maybe April.
Jeez.
Yeah. Because I don't think like Spider-Man, you don't need to show it. Spider-Man's coming out holiday 2023. It's Spider-Man. I don't think it needs a year in advance of trailers.
I get it. But God of War doesn't need its own State of Play either, and you keep saying it's going to have one.
Because that's just kind of what they do. Like, Last of Us got one, Ghost of Tsushima got one, Deathloop got one. That's what they do. I think Ghostwire Tokyo got one. So, like, they will do one specifically for God of War. I hope it's mostly developers talking as opposed to gameplay or story bits. But God of War will get one. I even think no, they already did one for Hogwarts Legacy, so we don't have to assume that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's kind of what we're expected from Sony the rest of the year, and I think Nintendo, they're done because like the rest of their year is packed with games. So I think Nintendo is probably done for the year. Xbox probably needs one, but they also need to fucking have games ready, so they probably can't do it.
Nintendo just released Splatoon and said, "Oh, we're sitting on money."
God, yeah. If we didn't have like the direct, we would have talked about Splatoon selling 3.4 million copies in Japan alone, the best-selling game in Japan's history, or fastest-selling game in Japan, Japanese
Unreal.
video game history. But yeah, I think that's the state of PlayStation's future.
Yeah.
Expect the God of War one in a couple weeks. And I know we sound negative about God of War. We are both very excited for God of War, but we also just want to play God of War.
We were both at the same point with Last of Us Part 2. Stop it.
Yeah.
Please just
Deathloop.
stop.
Same thing.
No, I mean, Deathloop, at least, I was still trying to figure out what Deathloop was. Last of Us Part 2 is continuing a story. God of War Ragnarok is continuing the Kratos and Atreus story. I don't need anything else. If they released a title card right now, today, that said Uncharted 5, Naughty Dog, Uncharted 5, I'm buying the game.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do anything.
Maybe a subtitle, Nathan Drake is still here. That's it. And we're in.
Yeah. I just, so, God of War Ragnarok is being purchased. And that's how it's going to go. And I don't, if they do a state of play, I probably won't. I will not want to watch it, and you will make me watch it so we talk about it.
No, I will promise you now, I will not watch a God of War state of play just because I want to play God of War.
Okay.
Unless something crazy happens, then I'll watch it.
All right, so that's it for today, guys. So we talked about it earlier, with as much news as we had, we're not going to do playing and watching. We're not going to do community questions, one we didn't ask for them. And it's been a couple weeks, and playing and watching, again, just there's too much stuff going on, and most of you guys really, really like this kind of stuff and us talking about these things anyway. So we will be back to a more regular routine show next week. But we really appreciate everyone, being cool about us taking the week off. Again, apologies for that, but life is what it is. And sometimes we just need a break, and we can do that. We don't have pressure to continuously continue a streak that's unnecessarily unwarranted. So that's just kind of where we're at, and that's the cool thing about it just being the Michael and Dave show, is that we collaboratively make a choice and we move on. So you can follow us on Twitter. The main account is @DigitalDaysPod. Michael's account is @TheFirstMJC. Mine is @GoodDaveHunt. Facebook group and Discord server are in the show notes. Patreon is in there as well. Thank you for those who have been supporting us. We're working on getting back into that routine as well. That's the only platform I think I did a bad job, and I didn't update Patreon users on us skipping a week. So again, my apologies. I put it everywhere else. But I hope everyone had a great 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, and I hope everyone's back to listening. Again, leave a comment, write something on Facebook, tweet at us that you missed us for a week or something. Make us feel good. I'm not too humble to ask for it. Just kidding. And then I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.